What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Blerded Out. We got some interesting tidbits of news this week. We got Geeked Week for Netflix. So we dropped a bunch of new stuff, a lot of stuff that I'm interested in. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. Included in that update is going to be some One Piece live action stuff. And then we got the One Piece chapter just dropped, so we're going to go over that as well. And then if we have some time at the end here, we're going to talk about Fate's Stay Night Heaven's Feel. Because I just watched that. I've been meaning to catch up to it for a while now, and I finally got around to it. As always, a word from our sponsors. Thank you for tuning in to Blerded Out. Whether you're listening from YouTube on my channels like Arcane Kumo or Blerded Out Podcast, or one of the many podcast sites like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and more, I appreciate your support. If you want to listen to older episodes of that podcast, head on over to Patreon. If you join as a free member, you can watch all the old episodes from the old seasons for free. Plus, there'll be other content that didn't quite make it to an episode or on a YouTube video that you can check out there as well. Your support means the world.
Welcome to the podcast. Call it Blerded Out with your host Tyrant. What's Kuma talking about? Talking all things, we chillin' like Geeked. Better activate your Byakugan so you can see me coming at you left, right, up, down, sideways. Reactions, reviews, maybe even let's plays. On this droid boy trying to make you laugh, make you smile. We about to set sail, so sit back and stay a while. It's Blerd It Out. Blerd It Out.
And if you have not caught up with the latest chapters or episodes, please know that there will be spoilers ahead.
Spoilers.
Okay, so let's talk Geeked Week. Let's talk Netflix. Let's talk new shows coming out. First, I want to talk about Arcane. If you have not seen Arcane, go watch it now. It is such a good series. As a League player for over a decade now, it's crazy to say, but been playing League for so long. I absolutely love Arcane, and I think one of the things about Arcane is that you don't need to be a player of the game to enjoy the show. The show is just really well done. If you got time to sit back, run through a 9-episode series, just give it a shot. It's so good. Season 2 is on the way in November, and this is probably one of the things I'm most excited for. Like, I would say of all the new things premiering, Arcane is the one I'm most excited for. Possibly even more than the One Piece live action, which is kind of crazy, but I absolutely love Arcane. I've rewatched it so many times. I plan on being front and center when it drops in November. They're going to do like the 3-piece like they did last time, where they drop in November. It's going to be on November 9th, 16th, and 23rd. Each set, they're going to drop 3 episodes, so it's going to be another like 9-episode, 3 parts. And I'm not going to go into details in case you haven't seen Arcane already, even though you really should have by now. But it looks like it's going to be a hype season. I'm seeing a lot of my girl Vi, so that's automatically a plus for me. But it looks like a lot of cool things are going to be happening here. Next up, Avatar, the live action. So, the first season did not go well, in my opinion. I think it was really poorly done. Just a lot of issues with that first season. They're going for round 2. I think they got greenlit for 2 and 3. At the very most, I know they got greenlit for 2. And they dropped the trailer. The trailer has Toph in it. And if you know about my Avatar love, you know that Toph is my favorite character. Bar none. Toph is my favorite character in Avatar and in Korra. That's how much I love this character. If they mess up Toph, there is no redemption. There's nothing they can do to earn their good graces back from me. It's over. So we are going to see how well they do Toph. They announced the actress for Toph, which is going to be Mia Chek, I believe, if I'm saying her name correctly. And it's odd enough because she doesn't really look like I would expect Toph to look. But then again, she doesn't have her hair in the giant like poof that Toph normally does. That may change things. For some reason, like with the Avatar casting, they really nailed down the looks of certain characters. Like, I don't know if there's a person in this world that looks like Sokka more than the guy who plays Sokka looks like Sokka. And I think they did pretty well with like a lot of the other characters as well. But I'm curious to see how she's going to be. I don't know her from anything else. I think she's in something, like a few other things. I haven't seen that stuff, but I'm excited to see how that plays out. I think it's really cool that they're still giving them a chance to try something out. It's really just up to the writing. The writing is the weak point. I think they gotta work on that. They gotta figure out what the issue was, and they gotta go from there. But as far as like the actors and actresses, I think they did well what they were given. So I'm excited to see how well she's gonna do. They also announced a new Cyberpunk. If you haven't seen Cyberpunk Edge Runners, go check that out as well. Really good, really depressing, but really good. And I'm excited to see where they're going from that. If it's Studio Trigger, you know, I mean, I'm gonna be in whoever decides to produce it. If it's Studio Trigger again, I'm 100% in. Whatever Trigger does, I'll be there for. And last but not least, we have the One Piece live action. So we got a lot of drops for the live action here. A lot of cool drops. So we have Joe Manganiello, who's going to be Mr. Zero. He's going to be Crocodile. And they did like a few different pieces for the One Piece live action during the stream. And so they had Joe come out. They announced him. I will say I think he looks the part of Mr. Zero. Again, this is a person that I'm not really familiar with as far as the acting world. It's weird because I feel like I've seen his face a few different times, but I can't pin it anywhere. And when I look through like the filmography, his television history, I see like bits and pieces of shows that I have seen. Like apparently he was on Scrubs. I don't remember him being on Scrubs. He was only there for one episode. But like a lot of other things that he was in more prominently, I don't think I've watched. So that's probably a way I could recognize his face, but just not really be able to put him anywhere. Also, he reminds me of Jaime Lannister a little bit. But his face is just, it's so familiar to me. I don't know why. But I think he'll make a good fit for Crocodile. We also got Lyra Obova, who's going to be, also I don't know if I'm saying that name right, new Robin, Miss All Sunday. So we got Robin and we got Crocodile, which are characters we've especially been waiting to see Robin for a while now. But we've been waiting for these characters. They said they were going to announce, like, they were going to slowly trickle in live action stuff, you know, as time progressed. And we finally got, like, I think we have all of the cast. I don't know if we know who Chopper is going to be, but we actually got a visual of him as well. One of the cool things they did during like the reveal and everything is they had Joe on, but they were doing like a discussion with Joe and Jeff comes out. If you don't know who Jeff is, Jeff Ward is Buggy. And Jeff was probably, if not my favorite, one of my two favorite people from the first season of live action. The other one being Emily. I think Nami and Buggy carried that season all the way through. They hard carried, but like because Buggy isn't in every single episode, it kind of balances itself out. Where I think I really like how Jeff portrays Buggy, and I really like how Nami is portrayed by Emily. But Jeff just another level of entertainment for the character that Buggy is. It brings new life to Buggy. And so he came out and they have some banter here and there, which is really funny in character stuff. They even do like a cross guild type sneak, which it's funny because I'm pretty sure Joe and Jeff, at the very least, they may have like heard the term, know what it's about. They have no real idea what cross guild is, I would imagine. I don't think they're like avid One Piece readers, as far as I know. I know Matt is. So Matt's the one who makes kind of like the kind of dig at Cross Guild, and then the other two kind of chime in. So I know Matt knows what he's talking about. I don't really know if the other two do. I feel like it's a situation where Matt was like, so at some point in the story, these two characters start working together in a thing called Cross Guild. So I'm gonna make a joke about Cross Guild, and you guys can just, you know, play off that. I feel like something like that happened, but either way, it's still a nice little nod. I appreciate it because I know that the live action is not aimed towards like the deep manga readers as much as it's aimed towards the casuals, the new people. So having little hints like that, that's always nice. It gives you a different type of hope that, you know, the live action will exist long enough to get to that point. it's gonna be a hard thing to do, I think, to get the One Piece live action all the way to where we're at now. If they can get like a full live action series out of this, that would be insane. That's all the geek stuff I really wanted to cover. They did some stuff on Squid Game. I liked the first, like, I think 80%, 90% of Squid Game. Really, I think it's just the ending that I was just like, okay, I have lost all interest in anything that could be happening next. So I haven't even watched like the trailer for Squid Game season 2. I just know that they announced it. I may check it out at some point. Like I said, hit or miss for me. I might still watch it just because I watched the first season, but my interest in it has dwindled severely. Yeah, so be sure to check out like the trailers and the drops for all the stuff I mentioned. It's a bunch of cool stuff. I'm really excited. They're gonna end the year here on a bang because they're gonna have like a bunch of stuff coming out. Like I said, Arcane comes out in November, and that's what I'm most excited for. So we got some time. I'm probably gonna try and react to that. I would at least love to try and react to that. We'll see how that goes. On to the chapter 1127, Adventure in the Land of Mystery. We got our cover story. We are still on the pilgrimage, and we went to Inarashi, who is the daimyo of Kuri. And basically, Kuri is where the women are being kidnapped. And him being the daimyo, this is the kind of land he's over. So it's kind of like Yamato and Inarashi are probably discussing what's happening and how they can find a solution. I'm still curious as to where this story is going. It seems to be deviating in a path that I wasn't expecting, because I fully expected it to turn into a lore type deviation, but this seems to be like a legitimate side story type deviation. We'll see if they end up connecting at some point, but this does seem more like side related than it does related to the main story. But we get to the chapter itself, and oddly enough, I think we're just in Elbaf. Because one of the first things they mention is that there's a fire in the forest, and they're trying to put it out because it might get close to Yggdrasil. And Yggdrasil is the fabled world tree. And this is like the tree like it's in Norse mythology, like it exists between the 9 realms. It is the like world tree, literally the world tree. So what they're saying is like if the flames get to the world tree, then the country's done for. I think in the context of One Piece, Yggdrasil is a sacred tree, but not in the same way that it is in normal Norse mythology. But basically they're talking about stopping the fire from getting to it. They're also mentioning some of the animals, like the stinger mole, are all just falling out of the sky. Basically, a bunch of chaos is happening. They have no idea what's going on. One thing to note is that the town that we're in is all Lego. So wherever this is in Elbaf, it's entirely made of Legos. I feel like this can't be how all of Elbaf is, unless the only reason this would be how all of Elbaf is if Loki has some kind of like Lego based devil fruit. Otherwise, I feel like this is just like a town or a certain section of Elbaf where everything's just Lego. The Giants continue talking about basically all of the sacred animals, it seems like, are collapsing, dying, getting killed off. They have no idea why, and we're gonna figure that out later on in the chapter, but in a sense, everything's going bad. The sacred tree is about to get burnt, your sacred animals are dying, something's going on and they have no idea what. Cut back to what I thought was a mansion, was actually a castle called Big Stein Castle. That's where Nami is. And we come back to her, and she's killing one of these stinger mole that the giants were just talking about. And based on the way she did it, it's fried. When you look at the stinger mole that the giants find, they have like lumps on their head. I'm pretty sure they got punched and knocked out by the rest of the crew. Because I was going to say they got sniped by Usopp, but Usopp is also in the castle with Nami, who she hears calling. I think that's the person that was calling in the last chapter. And it's funny because Nami starts crying for someone to save her, and she cries for Luffy, then Zoro, then Sanji, and then she says, "I'll even take Usopp." And it turns out Usopp is the one here with her. Nami's trying to get a grasp on what's going on. She's talking about she doesn't remember changing, she doesn't remember coming here. She has no idea what's going on. He just ended up in this castle, and she runs into a hedgehog. I will note that Nami does trip at some point, and she talks about the floor being all bumpy. But that's really all the discussion we get about like the toy Lego nature of this mansion, or this castle, I should say. Like for the rest of the chapter, they don't mention it, but at this point they do, which means it's definitely going to come into play very soon. Oda generally doesn't drop hints like this unless it's a wraparound. So she runs into a hedgehog, she startles it, and so it spikes out and starts attacking her. She runs away at first, runs towards Usopp's voice, and finds Usopp in the mouth of a cat. And there's just a bunch of giant animals here. And it makes me think that this is kind of like a play place for pets. Because it's big, but I don't think a giant would fit in here. Because it's big, but not on the standards of like Nami and Usopp, where I think they look relatively normal sized in this castle. Like if you had a castle, they would kind of fit in this way. I don't think it's big enough to house giants, or at least the bigger giants, because even the cat, I wouldn't say is bigger than a giant. It's a big cat, but like, I think you could fit Usopp in a giant's hand, and Usopp's kind of like hanging out of the cat's mouth right now. So I feel like the mansion is probably like a pet house where they keep like a bunch of sacred animals. And this cat seems to be like the head honcho of the pet house. So we have this giant cat on one end, we have the screaming hedgehog on the other one. Nami ends up electrocuting the hedgehog with Zeus, which pushes her down to where the cat is. And it's funny because like the hedgehog was rushing at Nami when it got electrocuted. So it ends up flying over with her and lands on top of the cat. And what this does is it conducts the electricity through the hedgehog and the cat at the same time. And while that takes out the hedgehog, it basically just makes the cat mad. So it starts chasing Nami and Usopp. We finally see Usopp's Elbaf drip, and it's a little goofy. He has like pants like Queen on. He has like overalls like Queen does. But he has this fake beard. And then like a Viking helmet. It's weird because a lot of this reminds me of Kinemon's fruit, where basically he could make any kind of outfit to fit the scenario. Because realistically, if they changed Nami and Usopp, and essentially the rest of the crew, why did they give Usopp a fake beard? So I don't know if it was necessarily giants changing them to fit in, or if it was more along the lines of they did it while they were drunk, or some kind of Dofru power. And Nami mentions that basically, yeah, that booze was causing hallucinations. So they turned up a little too hard. They keep running, and eventually they run into a dead end ledge. And they look over, and they're really high up. The entire mansion, even like the trees in the field, like it's all Lego, which is interesting because if I look back, it does look like the forest mentioned earlier is also made of Lego, which would be confusing as to how it's on fire. But I guess it depends on like the material the Lego stuff is made with. But literally everything is Lego here. Now Usopp thinks about what Nami just said about the booze causing hallucinations, and he decides to test that with the cat. Turns out the cat is not a hallucination. Hits him in the head, knocks him clean out. Sends him flying off the side because like the force of the cat was just insane. And Nami kind of calls for him but ends up falling as well. And they both fall to the lower level. By the time the cat gets down there, it's evolved into a lion. At this point, I have no idea what's going on. And they have no idea what's going on either. I feel like I'm hallucinating. Just a bunch of weird stuff's happening. And there's actually skulls and like bones of people down here. So it feels like this might be a feeding ground. My assumption up to this point is that there are some giants that capture pirates or capture like people out on sea around Elbaf and send them here to be feed for like their pets. That's kind of my assumption. Or else I don't know why there would be like remains of people here unless they were like actually feeding them to the pets. Now, of course, when Nami's in danger, you hear the call of Sanji. He comes flying in, Jambe. We also see Luffy and Zoro, so they were all together. Weird thing, they say Gear 4 when Luffy pumps up his leg, I don't think that's Gear 4. Actually, I'm pretty sure that's not Gear 4. That's straight up Gear 3. Especially because it's an elephant. Elephant is a Gear 3 type attack. Whereas if we were to go to Gear 4, it probably would have been Kong or some kind of snake. I think with Gear 3, it was like elephant and bear. Like big burly attacks, usually big burly monsters. So I think there was just a mistranslation here. I don't think that's Gear 3. Pretty sure it's just Gear 4. We have Ifrit Janbei, Gear 3, and then Zoro comes in with a Dragon Twister. And I like that when Zoro's doing like the Dragon Twister stance, we get a dragon that looks like Kaido. I don't know if we always get that. I know at some points we do see like a dragon in the background, he'll do that stance and he kind of has a silhouette. I do like that it looks straight up just like Kaido. When we get the combo attack, they knock out the lion, easy peasy, and it basically devolves back into a normal cat. And then we get a nice double page spread for the end of the chapter here. And we get to see all of the Elbaf drip. Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji are all fitted out with new drip. And this furthers the idea that I'm pretty sure it's an ability or some kind of joke change, because the stylings are nice, but they don't match the character. For example, Luffy has like a battle axe on his back, which is interesting. I actually think that's an error, because in the big panel with the cat knocked out, you see Luffy and it looks like he has a sword on his back based on the hilt and the end there. And then in the close-up, it's clearly an axe. So that might be, they may have made a mistake there. Otherwise, everyone kind of looks really decked out in armor, which I don't think is their style. Sanji's especially doesn't really match him as a character. I think Zoro to a degree matches. I think Luffy's is fine. But like Zoro's and Sanji's, I do like Zoro's drip. I don't like Sanji's. I also don't think it matches. But basically they talk about what they've been doing basically since they've been off screen, which is taking out the rabbit and other animals like the bees. So basically they're the ones that have been causing the chaos. Sanji talks about the bees, so they're the ones that knocked out the bees that the giants found at the beginning of the chapter. Then Luffy talks about grilling up the rabbit. So basically they're here eating the sacred or like the holy animals of Elbaf, which I feel like is going to cause a big problem. And that's basically the end of the chapter. We're going to be on break, and then the next chapter we're going to have the cover of Shonen Jump, and then we're going to have a color spread. So that's going to be cool. The break's a little eh. And this chapter it was just okay. Like, I feel like a lot of things are just happening, and because we don't know where we are or what's really going on, it seems more confusing than anything. Like, I really just have questions. I don't really have any answers. I just have questions. Like, why is this a Lego city? Who brought us here? Who changed us into this tire? Is there like devil fruits in play? Whose animals are these? There's so many questions. I feel like I got no answers. I'm just confused. And it's a weird spot to kind of leave on a cliffhanger. It doesn't really leave, I feel like it doesn't really leave you with speculation as much as other chapters do. Where it's like, we kind of get the notion that we're on Elbaf to some degree. And there's nothing really here bigger to speculate. I would say nothing really story-wise happened in this chapter. So it's probably going to be a more quiet break on the timeline. This is usually the time where we talk about some other stuff that we haven't hit yet. Some topics or like videos we've been trying to get out that we just haven't the time to. That's probably what's going to happen this break week, because I don't think this is a very talk-centric chapter. And while we got a little bit of time here, I do want to hit Heaven's Feel for just a little bit. So I have watched Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works. I've watched Fate Zero. I've watched Babylon. I tried to watch Acrofia. I never got through it. I got to go back to that. I'm a pretty in there fan for the Fate series. Unlimited Blade Works is one of my favorite series. And so when Heaven's Feel first got announced, which was a while ago, I was super excited for watching it. Just because it's a branch of Unlimited Blade Works, which is my favorite of the Fate series so far. And it's a 3-parter, so like they dropped the movies not all at the same time. It was in like parts and sections here. So it's been a while since they've been out. And I think the last one actually dropped last year. But I finally caught up to it. And I really liked it. It was dope. Because it starts off, spoilers in case you haven't watched Unlimited Blade Works or the Heaven's Feel. I won't go too deep into the Heaven's Feel stuff in case you do still want to watch it. But Heaven's Feel starts off very similar to how Unlimited Blade Works starts off. And then slowly but surely, small pieces start to deviate. And that's kind of what captured me, because initially I was like, okay, it feels like a movie-fied version of Unlimited Blade Works. And because Ufotable did Unlimited Blade Works and Heaven's Feel, like, it's not like it was a remastered version, it was just like a retelling, basically. So I was kind of like, okay, this is cool, I guess. Maybe it's like a speed run of what we went through last time. But then little things start deviating. And they're subtle at first, and they slowly become more noticeable. All within the first movie. By the time the second movie hits, like it's an entirely different set of things. Like the story has changed, but the fights, the choreography, the story, all so good. I really enjoy Fate, and the trilogy was nice. It focuses a lot more on Sakura, who we get like sprinkles, just little sprinkles of Sakura in Unlimited Blade Works. I think we get the same thing in Zero to some degree, but Heaven's Feel is based like heavily on Sakura. But it's still got all the same like characters. Like it has Saber, it's got old Gilgamesh, Archer, Rider, Berserker, all the same servants are there. But we have entirely different fights. And one of the things that I really liked about watching Heaven's Feel was that there were things I could call based on watching Unlimited Blade Works. I was like, it would make sense if this character did something here, then they would do it. And I was like, hey, that's what's up. Like there's a moment. If you don't know Archer, he has an ability called Rose Ice, which is a big shield. There's the moment in Unlimited Blade Works where he uses Rose Eyes, and it's kind of like one of the main things people know about Unlimited Blade Works, because he has the speech that starts with "I am the bone of my sword," and so he uses Rose Ice in Heaven's Feel at some point. But it's like a moment where I was like, it would be really cool if he used Rose Ice right now, and then like seconds later he does. Stuff like that. Lancer's in there. He uses Gaybolg. And I mean, obviously these are their like main abilities in Noble Phantasms. Of course they're going to use these, but it's just really cool to see them again in different context. Like I said, I won't spoil the story because I think it's a really cool story. I think it's definitely worth going through. If you haven't seen it yet, go check it out. If you haven't seen Unlimited Blade Works yet, check that out. Like I would say, if you want to watch Heaven's Feel, you really don't even need to watch Unlimited Blade Works to watch Heaven's Feel. I think they carry themselves enough in different ways that they exist on their own. I think if you watch Unlimited Blade Works before Heaven's Feel, you will find it a bit more enjoyable. Not that it's not enjoyable without it, but I think the nod backs, the callbacks, the stuff that you would recognize makes it a lot better. And honestly, that's kind of one of the reasons I think to circle back to the beginning, playing League and watching Arcane is fun, because you can have callbacks. You can say, oh, I know who that is, or I know what that's going to do. I've heard of that. Like there's something really fun about being able to watch something and instantly recognize what's going to happen before it happens, because like the lore, the history, you have almost insider information on this. But that's going to wrap it up for me. Like I said, we're on break week. We will see. We might have a break episode next week. We might do. I've been wanting to talk about Kaguya, Kaguya-sama Love is War, because I finished that series recently, and that's it. I think that might be my top one romance series right now. So we'll see. We might do a talk on that and just break that down, or any other ideas that might have lingering around might pop up next week as well. But be sure to like, comment, subscribe, smash the like button. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.